So let's talk about radio. Now, radio is nothing new. It's been around forever, definitely all through the 20th century and into the 21st, and it's certainly not going anywhere anytime soon. However, back in the 80s, radio had a big influence on what people were listening to, how people were consuming music, right? Because you could play music from the radio on your car stereo. You could play it on your boombox. You could play it on your Walkman. You could play it on your home stereo. And again, this is before any internet. This is before any Spotify or Tidal or iTunes. So again, they kind of really had the monopoly on what people were listening to and for artists to release new music and get it to their fans. Now, radio stations, just like today, had all these different genres of music. In the 80s, there were even more genres. So you had hard rock, think like hair metal bands. You had classic rock, which was 50s, 60s, and 70s music. You had soft rock, or easy listening, or as I like to call it, dentist office music.
Hi, I'm Charlie Tuna. Here at K-Hits 97, we spend a lot of time carefully choosing the songs we play. That's why you hear only the music you like best. We know we've got something over the competition because at KHTZ, we let our music do the talking.
There's R&B music, there's pop music, there's country music, there's alternative music, which again in the 80s meant more new wave, synth pop, think UK, think Euro band.
4.5.
And then your usual talk radio and public radio broadcasting. Now, radio stations were owned by big companies, big networks like ABC or CBS, but actually back in the 80s, a lot of these ownerships fell apart, which allowed radio stations, at least a few of them, to be more independent, to kind of vary their programming, have a lot more personal influence on what was being played on the radio versus corporate commercial influence. So chances are you could hear a lot more different kinds of music on the radio. The other thing is there were top 40, just like today, just like back in the day, top 40 countdowns like Casey Kasem's American Top 40, which again was broadcast all over the world and was really a mashup of all different genres. You could have hard rock, you could have easy listening, country, R&B, pop, eventually rap, alternative music, all in this one top 40 chart. So it was actually a cool way that you could hear all different kinds of genres of music versus there were different charts, but these songs also made it onto the top mainstream top 40 chart as well.
Hello again, and welcome to American Top 40. My name's Casey Kasem, and I'm ready to count down the most popular songs in the nation.
Crew, New Edition, a lot of these artists got their recognition from their songs being played on the radio and on these countdown chart radio shows. Also, a lot more independent radio stations in the 80s. Think college radio. College radio was huge back in the 80s. This was also a way for underground music to be heard that wasn't accepted by the mainstream. Pirate radio stations also contributed to this. So again, think like hardcore punk, think rap, music that wasn't being socially accepted by the conservatives could get airplay, could get fans, could get more ears on these radio stations played out of colleges and underground pirate radio stations.
It's me again with a little attitude for all you out here in white bread land. It's 10 o'clock. Do you care where your parents are?
This radio person is the whole problem. Are we going to allow this guy to be heard by anyone who can turn a dial?
I'm in jail. I'm going to stay here. I like it here.
Now we move on to the music magazine. Music magazines were another huge purveyor of artist and music promotion back in the 80s.
Here's the bangs from Now Magazine. Came out the other day. The Nina Maggie's out on the stand.
Again, this is before the interwebs, so you could buy a ton of music magazines. You would go to your newsstand, you would go to your bookstore, you would go to your record store, or you would subscribe by mail to all these different types of music magazines to specifically read about what genre of music you were interested in. Yeah, it is really cool nowadays to be on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, but remember, back in the day, there was literally no competition. So this type of coverage could totally blow up your career because, again, you're getting more eyeballs, less distraction, a more attentive audience back in the 80s. Now, music magazines obviously were nothing new in the 80s, and they continued on through the 90s, but it still had a huge influence on music. Also think of artist interviews, an ability to talk about their upcoming tour or their upcoming album release. Again, there's no internet, no social media, so this was really the one chance that artists had to get messages to their fans. If you wanted to know more about Boy George or Madonna or Michael Jackson, music magazines were generally the first place that you would look and seek out more information. So let's go on to our friendly neighborhood record store. Back in the 80s, record stores were everywhere. They sold vinyl, they sold tape cassettes, and then eventually compact discs. Record stores were everywhere. Some were independently owned and some were big chains. So think Tower Records, think HMV, think Music Plus, think Music Land, think Sam Goody's, and more. If you worked at a record store, chances are you were a broke musician, you were cool, you smoked, and you lived in your parents' basement. But you were a connoisseur of music.
Oh no, you know what? I don't think I'm selling it this week. Maybe next week.
Oh no, you said that last week.
Did I? Yeah, well, I played.
You know, I don't have that record. I'll buy it for 40.
We're up.
So, now why would you sell it to me and not to him?
Because you're not a geek, Lewis.
You guys are snobs.
No, we're not.
No, seriously, you're totally elitist. You feel like the unappreciated scholars, so you shit on the people who know less than you. No, which is everybody.
Yes.
Record stores a lot like today, but again, sadly, not so many around. You could spend hours. Just like a bookstore, you could browse, look at all the different albums, look at the cover art, maybe read some music magazines, buy some music posters. There were also listening stations at some record stores, so say a new album came out and you just wanted to hear one or two tracks to see if it was any good. Go to the listening station, put on some headphones, and take a listen before you buy. Also a great place for local bands to post flyers, maybe perform in this store. Back in the 80s, record stores were definitely a hub for music. It was the place to be.
Waxy Maxy's puts the area's largest selection of music at your fingertips. With more records, more tapes, and more compact discs and accessories at stores everywhere in Maryland and Virginia. Waxy Maxy's with everyday low prices and weekly specials on more of your favorites. Including the award-winning album by Whitney Houston, featuring her latest hit, How Would I Know, on sale for just $5.99, LP or cassette. When it comes to great music, Waxy Maxy's is music to your ears.
Now, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about music videos in the 80s.
Turn it on, leave it on, America, see the music you want to see.
Film and music was nothing new. If you think of the Beatles with Hard Day's Night, or their movie Help, or think of the Monkees TV show, it had been happening for a while. In the 70s, the Aussies and Brits were all over making music videos. They were called promotional clips, and they were made for artists like David Bowie, AC/DC, and Queen. These videos were eventually shown on TV, on programming like Video Concert Hall and Night Flight. Also, there were other opportunities to perform on TV, late-night talk shows, Solid Gold, Soul Train, heck, even The Muppet Show and Sesame Street were rocking it.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes.
Let me come right to the point. You, sir, are a demented, sick, degenerate, barbaric, naughty freako.
Why, thank you.
But when MTV launched their first music video channel 24 hours a day in 1981, this was a revolution.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll. This is it. Welcome to MTV Music Television, the world's first 24-hour stereo video music channel.
So now you have a 24-hour music channel that's going to promote you, your sense of fashion, your dance moves, your new music in front of a captive audience. Also remember that in the 80s, people were getting nicer TVs, there were more cable channels, so essentially people stayed home to watch more TV.
I won't buy MTV.
24 hours a day on cable TV.
I want my MTV, MTV, MTV!
Yeah, too much is never enough.
Every artist had to have a music video whether they liked it or not, and eventually they had to be bigger and better than the last. When Michael Jackson came out with a Thriller video, it was an event. MTV ruled, there's no question about it, and this was a revolution. More programming eventually rolled out, as well as music video awards and more. As they say, the rest is history. I hope you enjoyed this video all about listening to music in the 80s. Stay tuned for more 80s videos. Please like, subscribe, and share. Tell your friends. And if you want to check out my music, you can do it at L.Arielmusic.com. That's L.Arielmusic.com.